when I'm famous, do something funny with this.
Oh, this is why I'll let David go first. This is going to be a long night.
I haven't had any alcohol, it's fine.
Hello, I'm Steve Oliver. Welcome to another edition of the Random Sessions 100% Unplugged here at the Hop Merchant in Nottingham. I'm joined for the second time by Pixie Styx, and this is her first song, Panic in the Water.
Skeggy Beach in the early noughties, Mama, Dad and me. And the best dog ever raffles who ain't seen much of the sea. I've always loved to swim out deep, 'cause a little fear is a little sweet to me. To me. Have you ever had a four-stone dog try to climb up on your shoulders where it's dry? Far too young and pretty yet to die. There was panic in the water. There was fear in that place. There's still a mama on the shoreline, sunshine flowing her face. There was panic in the water. No, we couldn't touch the ground. But I say now, with all the pride of any daughter, it was me dad who kept us safe and sound. Years ago, family picnic by the sea. Great granddad Alfred, mama, granddad, my dad, and me Uncle Pete. Dad was small with big ideas, and the Isle of Wight didn't seem too far away. Didn't seem too far away. Do you think that we could do it, Dad? Aye, if you want to, lad, we'll try. But the waves get big when the wind gets up, and all you see is you and sea and sky. There was panic in the water when they couldn't see the land. Man was waiting on the shore with an ice cream in her hand. There was panic in the water. We'll whip and spray up all around. Should we go back, Dad, if you think we ought to? My granddad kept his own lad safe and sound. 1940s Dunkirk, we'll fight them on the beach. They're pressed and they're surrounded, and home's just out of reach. Mama's not a man just yet, she's waiting for her soldier to come home. Come on home. Granddad's reached the water now, but danger's coming, and it may beware. There's nothing more that I can do, lads, boats are coming, England's over there. There was panic in the water. There was terror on that day. Boys were dying on the shoreline while they were trying to get away. There was panic in the water, but there is something I have found. The pioneers built the defenses round the beaches. My great-granddad kept his own lad safe and sound. My great-granddad kept his own lad safe and sound.
Alright, that was Panic in the Water, and welcome again,
Yep.
second time now.
Yeah, I must have not been too naughty the first time then.
It was great the first time. That was actually the first time. No, it wasn't the first time we met, was it? It was.
No, but I think it was only the second time.
It was, yeah, Hockley Hustle was
Yeah.
the first time, yeah, so...
Thanks, Andy, for hurting yourself in your delicate gentleman's area.
That's going to have... No one's going to know what that means now. No context whatsoever.
I'm just going to put in references to me and people's bollock pain and see what people make of it. Not just in this, just throughout my life.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought this is going to make a really weird interview. If that, and you've got more than one person as well to have that.
Oh, definitely.
reference
I've had a
with.
very interesting life.
We were saying last week's guest, David, is here as well. And as we were walking down the stairs to have a cigarette break in the filming break, I turned to David and went, she's got a story for everything.
Yeah, it might be true.
You were
Some of them aren't lying.
You were telling the tomato ketchup story as you walked down the stairs.
Yeah, tomato ketchup's excellent. And it was also barbecue sauce. That was the year I had 100 tomato plants in my garden and no gas. So we didn't ever use the cooker. We just cooked things on the fire pit. We had the fire brigade called out because of an incident with a particularly large marrow. Yeah, of course.
Oh my god. Right, I was going to ask you some music related questions, but how the fuck do you get the fire brigade out with a marrow?
I let my ex cook it.
Right. Oh dear, this used to be a music competition.
Sorry.
No.
I've pretended to
I enjoy listening to you because you do. I've said before you should do like a stage, 1 hour stage show or something like that. I don't think an hour would be enough to be quite
Let
honest.
us know whether or not it's just Steve's sense of humour or does everybody else find me funny, because I'm not sure.
I genuinely think you should put together a one-woman show and take over the world, but there you go.
I want sexy backing dancers though.
Alright.
In mankinis. All over 60. I don't like young men. Oh, men are hot.
You've got some weird...
Yep.
I'd love to spend an hour in your brain just
No,
to see...
you wouldn't.
Maybe 10 minutes.
If it was possible, I would let you try it, but I think you might come back very different.
I would. Traumatised, I think, is the word.
Yeah, well, there's a reason I'm like this.
Right. I'm going to steer this back into... If I'm going to try and steer this back into a music question. How long have you been playing and performing music?
Performing music, 33 years.
Wow.
My first performance ever was Silent Night with my sister at church when I was 3. I weren't putting no trusty lyrics in that because I didn't know any naughty words then. But yeah, I did a lot of singing with churches when I was younger. Then I hit puberty and stopped going to church, which probably explains quite a lot. All the way through school I was into musical theatre, so I was a proper stage school brat.
Alright.
And then...
What, in musicals? Actually playing in
Yeah,
musicals?
yeah. I was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat as the narrator. That was probably the pinnacle of my musical theatre at school. There's a video of that turned up somewhere, apparently.
Oh,
I'll have to see if we can find it. And my first ever solo, me from Les Mis, doing, that song that Susan Boyle did.
awkward silence.
It's only women with moustaches who are allowed to sing that
I
song.
dreamed a dream.
I dreamed a dream. I dreamed a dream that I didn't have to wax my tash. Subo dreamed the same dream.
That's the alternative title to the song, isn't it?
It must be, yeah.
So in this guise then, is what we're seeing now?
Just over 3 years.
All right.
Basically, I was in a hostel. I was a little bit concerned about being dragged into behaviour that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do with my life. There was a lot of people around me with a lot of issues who were doing a lot of things that I didn't think were particularly sensible. So I decided, what can I do that's not crack? So I thought opera. There you go, kids, do opera, not crack. But I got kicked out of the opera group. And then I got back into the opera group. And then I got kicked out again. So I decided I better pick up a guitar and learn how to play it.
So, and that's 3 years?
Yeah, I knew 5 chords. Basically, I'd had a little bit of guitar lessons when I was about 11, but there was a boy who was a few years older than me who said I ruined the Christmas concert because I could only play the first chord out of every bar. So I stopped having guitar lessons because I was frightened of him. And since then, I've got intense hatred of men with short hair. Thanks, Sean.
Right, we're going to hear your... I don't even know where we're up to. We've only played one song so far.
Put a song on.
Right. This is Pixie's second song. This is That'll Do.
Charlotte came from a nice part of town. Great big house with no dad around. Living with a granddad, she learned a lot from things that he said. You can always make do if you can make something new with your needle and thread. Oh, so what's you gonna wear when it's party time, my dear, and you ain't got no pennies for a dress? Whip up a little razzle dazzle, something that will certainly impress. Something older mothers from her days out on the stage could be tastefully refashioned with a little bit of lace. So turn it inside out, sew it up again, and I think that'll do. Just like new, oh that'll do. It's just like new, oh that'll do. It's just like new. So just turn it inside out, sew it up again, and I think that'll do. Charlotte came from a nice part of town, but ended up in the slums when her luck was down. Love over money, she found herself a man who would stay. Happy but poor has its own price to pay. Oh, so what's you gonna do when the gym money's due and you ain't got a penny for the car? Gotta be a little thrifty, make the most of all the little that we've got. It ain't a lot. Oh, a second-hand suit is only stained on the outside and could fit a lot of fellas if it starts out extra wide. So turn it inside out, sew it up again, and flog it off as new. That's what we'll do. Oh, flog it off as new. That's what we'll do. Oh, that'll do. It's just like new. So just turn it inside out, sew it up again, and flog it off as new. And I think that'll do.
But I do normally ask how you write a song. I think a lot of your stuff is quite autobiographical, isn't it? So,
Yeah. Well, I started off with autobiographical. I heard somebody say somewhere you should always write about what you know. So I wrote a lot about arguing with men, fancying men, having men not fancy you back. And then that was getting a little bit boring, both in my personal life and in my songs. So I started digging around in my family history, and I've always been into history. I've always been a bit of a history geek, and I've always been told amazing stories about my family. So with the wonders of technology, I started digging around, and I spend a lot of nights up till 3 o'clock in the morning reading newspaper articles from the 1800s, and quite often I
Well,
find...
don't we all?
Well, if you do, then that's a good thing, I
It
think.
is, yeah. It is. And you write a lot about, obviously, the first song that we heard, Panic in the Water, that was about your granddad.
I've been told I'm not allowed to say it's about my granddad, I'm not allowed to say it's about dads.
Sorry.
Yeah, about my dad, it's just about dads.
Oh, fair enough.
According to my dad. From my perspective, I specifically wanted to try and write something that was laid out like the online family trees are. So starting with something that happened in a reasonably recent history and then going back step by step. And it seemed very obvious to me that there were the first story I'd been involved in, and then the other two were tales I'd been told that had come down, true stories from the family that involved water. So it seemed quite a sensible link to bink, put them together.
Oh, good, yeah. And the next song we're going to hear is one that I only heard a few days ago, and I messaged you and asked if you'd play it on this, which thankfully you are. What is this about? Is this family related? Or?
Yeah, it is. So this is my 3 times great uncle, William Kane. He was epileptic.
Sorry.
It's noisy. Put your pants on.
Sorry, we've got... Lisa chatting.
That's alright, I'm not going to shout at him.
I'm not going to edit that out now. Fuck it. But so sorry, yeah, you were talking about the song Poor Will.
Yeah, it's my 4 times great uncle. He was put into the Stanton Asylum in 1861. He was epileptic. He was also listed as being manic and mentally deficient of some description. But I have a sneaking suspicion that if I got ripped away from my family, that would leave me acting in a way that people might call mentally
It was a different
deficient.
attitude in that sort of era as well. I mean, like even depression would have been something to lock you away for.
Yeah, definitely. There were cases of women who were put away for hysteria because they disagreed with their husband's politics.
Yeah.
So in some ways we've come a long way, but I still feel like we could do a lot more as a society to make things better for people who are struggling, which is kind of why I wrote this song.
Yeah.
Because I have seizures. I'm not epileptic, but I do have a seizure disorder. So when I found out that I have an ancestor who got locked up for doing something that I have to do on a regular basis, it made me think a little bit.
Cool. And that is the song we're going to hear now, Poor Will.
Mom and Dad dead, and his siblings all wed. Poor Will has something not right in his head. He still needs to be fed. The Reverend said the Stanton Asylum gives meat and a bed. He was slow in the mind, he was angry at times. His diseases and seizures were similar to mine. Nobody seems to know what happened to the bodies of those who died at Dakin Street. No one seems to know where I could go to say hello to a relative who shared a lot with me. The gardens were green, it was meant to be clean, but 2 patients were killed there in 1814. Did they take him at night? Did he put up a fight? Did anyone tell him he was gonna be alright? Nobody seems to know what happened to the bodies of those who died at Dakin Street. No one seems to know where I could go to say hello to a relative who shared a lot with me. I'm pretty glad that they don't lock you up round here for having seizures anymore. But things go round in cycles, and once again it seems like it's a crime to be poorly and poor, poorly and poor.
So going back to the autobiographical thread that runs through your writing, tell us about this next song, because again, this is one that I hadn't heard.
English Soil. Well, this one's interesting. Which bit do I start with? I got kicked out of the National Association for Gifted Children when I was 11, and it might sound like a bit of a tangent, but I will pull it back in. I got kicked out because I was a little bit rambunctious when they took me to the Galleries of Justice.
Right.
And I don't know what got into me, but they got me with a tam o' shanter on, playing someone who was being sent down for something or other. And yeah, I did what needed doing, we did the filming that we did, but something got into me and I was being a bit of a pain in the bum. And as I was digging around in my family history, I did know that I had an ancestor who'd been transported to Australia.
Right.
I didn't know what for, and I didn't know which ancestor, but I knew that that was the case. And I then found out sometime later, digging through, that it was actually at the National Galleries of Justice, where he was convicted to transportation. And I don't know if you know, but it was part of the sentence that after the point where they were sent down, it wasn't just we're going to send you to Australia. It was that after they'd left that building, their feet weren't to touch English soil again. They'd be put into a cart, they'd be taken away in the cart, they'd be put onto a prison hulk boat.
In fact, actually, the Galleries of Justice, when it was a court, there is actually a stairwell that goes to the canal.
Yeah.
So
that's it. They were
yeah.
taken straight down there and put onto the boat. Where was the cart? I think the cart might have been if you had to go somewhere else. But yeah, it was specifically once you'd left that building, you weren't allowed to touch English soil again. And I thought that was a particularly cruel kind of punishment. And I wondered if there weren't some kind of ancestral memory filtering through. But yeah, it's about my 4 times great granddad, Henry Kane. He was a framework knitter. And the framework knitters were treated absolutely horribly. If you want to learn more about it, totally endorse the Framework Knitters Museum in Ruddington. They've been very helpful and it's really interesting to see the machines working, have a go on some of the bits and pieces there, and to give the context, because it's one thing seeing it in a census record, FWUK,
yeah, sure.
What does that mean? When you start having a dig, it's fascinating. There would have been 14-hour work days. There would have initially been a cottage industry, so the whole family would have worked together in the same house. Their kids would get up in the morning and light the candles and put them along the frame itself, so it started to heat up the bits that needed to have a little bit of warmth for them to move properly. And we've got it in one of the census records. All the kids have got jobs in the industry as well, going down to the age of 7. They're either lace clippers or lace menders. Mum's seaming the back of the stockings up after dad's knitted them. So it's very interesting, but it was a case where they weren't making enough money to survive. Children were dying of starvation. People weren't getting appropriate healthcare. A tiny little problem could become something that caused massive issues in the family. And he stole a sheep. And he stole a sheep from a man called Samuel Taylor in Bulker, who ran the workhouse. So, up you, Mr. Bulker, I'm glad we stole your sheep. And if there's any more bullcuts around with sheep, I'll come and take them from you. And if I get a free holiday to Australia, that'll be
I don't think they do that anymore.
That's a shame. I like lamb though.
It's fascinating that you've got this much access to your family history as well. They all seem like when you hear you telling stories about your life, it's to people who don't know you, it will sound a bit outlandish. But then realising that all your ancestors were just as colourful characters as you were.
I found a great one out the other day. Henry's son was also called Henry. I've got a portrait of him from 1847 in his Grenadier Guards uniform.
I've seen that, yeah.
I've been in contact with the Grenadier Guards and it turns out everything about the uniform's wrong and they've got no record of him. The photographs there...
I thought there was going to be some Grenadier Guards.
Oh, we got kicked out. Oh no, I've got quite a few records of different people in the forces in the family getting reprimanded for being drunk. My great-granddad was demoted for missing a parade to go drinking. Good on you, Joe. But yeah, Henry, who was the Grenadier Guards, not only did they say that the uniform's all wrong, the cane he's got is 100 years out of date, but they've got absolutely no record of him, not just of being an officer, but of ever having been in the Grenadier Guards. So our current thought is, it was the year we got married, and he did get married in London, so we think he was probably walking through a park, found a caricature artist and was like, oh, paint me so I look like I'm doing something good, yeah? He probably had some dubious reasons for being in London, and he needed to send something back to the family to say, I'm being a good boy, honest I am.
Oh, listen, I could talk to you all night, I really could, because you are one of the most fascinating people I know. I genuinely mean that. And we're going to leave now. We'll have to do this again every time. We'll have to do this weekly. I'll just not get anyone else in. Just stories from Pixie's family. But that's not going to happen. So instead...
I've got enough stories.
I know, yeah. You should do your own one like this. You should do.
Oh, it's a lot of effort.
Oh, yeah. All right.
They got rid of Windows Media Player and now I don't know how to do videos. I'm a Luddite.
Alright, thank you ever so much for this.
Thanks, Steve.
I'll put a little link to the last time you were here as well so you can catch up with that. And thank you for watching. We're going to finish on this... Oh, social media, music.
Yeah, Facebook, Pixie Styx Music, SoundCloud, Pixie Styx, and YouTube, Pixie Styx. See, I do what I'm told, school.
There you go. And this is the song English Soil. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the Random Sessions on Facebook and Twitter at the addresses at the bottom of the screen. And I will be back next week. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Poor as a stocking was something people used to say. 14 hours every day, knitting on a narrow frame. Wider frames are coming and progress ain't good for the folk round here. Money men just keep on making money, and famine and factories fill everyone else with fear. Desperate plans to keep meat on the family fire. The church was high and haughty, and we don't need your kind round here. 15 years transportation, frame stands empty, family in the workhouse. Tell me who's the winner here. To stand again on English soil, headed for the prison holes where the tough men spoil. Never to stand again on English soil, headed for the wind and the waves and the roads to board. Poor as a stocking was something people used to say. Back to 14 hours every day, but now it's mom on the narrow frame. Cottage industry